What is up, YouTube? It has genuinely been a hot minute since I have filmed for you guys. I know you guys have heard this story a million times, but it's just been a super busy summer. I've been having the freaking time of my life, so that's pretty much all I can say about it. I am filming a few videos, so hopefully I can get the ones that are like literally requested a million quadrillion times up within the next week. That is my plan. I'm determined. I'm ready. I'm going to sit down and tell you guys how to study for funds, how to study for pharmacology, and my must-haves for going back to school. So this is kind of like a vlog slash video slash there's gonna be a bunch of random crap in this. So hi, welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. If you have never been to my channel before, I am so happy you're here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you thumbs up this video if you would like to see more. It really helps me understand what you guys like for content wise, and it also helps me in general as a YouTuber, just understanding what is going down, like with who's looking at my videos, who likes seeing what I post, and who does not, because I do get some dislikes. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright guys, so this is probably one of the most requested videos I think that I've ever had on my channel, and I've been saying that I was going to make this video for so freaking long, and I'm so terribly sorry that it is so late. But again, when I got done with school, I literally just didn't I just didn't have the motivation to make this video. I didn't have the motivation to make my fundamentals video, but I'm sitting down and I'm filming them both today because I really want to get them out before school starts, because I know that it is July 14th. It's about time for everybody to start thinking about school again shortly. I'm trying not to think about it, but I know that it's right around the corner. Being 2 semesters into nursing school, I have completed some of the hardest classes is what I'm told. Obviously, there's harder classes to come, but pharmacology and fundamentals are definitely 2 of the hardest classes. So I am going to basically just tell you guys my study tips, what I did to pass the classes, how I did in the classes, basically just kind of giving you guys a rundown. So to start off, pharmacology is basically an entire class about drugs. It's probably, I thought that fundamentals was harder than pharmacology because pharmacology is more of a memorization course, as with fundamentals it's more of a critical thinking course. So that's something just to take note when you're going into both of these courses. You need to realize that pharmacology is very time consuming. You need to make sure that you're putting in the effort, and you really need to make sure that you stay on top of your studying for that class, because if you get behind in pharmacology, you're easily going to be screwed really, really quickly. So keep that in mind when you're going into pharmacology. Just a few things to note. My pharmacology class was basically, it worked. We had a test every 2 weeks. We had 8 exams, and included in those exams was 1 midterm, which was accumulated from everything up until that point, if that makes sense. So everything that we had started on day 1 in January was included in the midterm, which was in about mid-March, I want to say. And then from March on, we had a final, which was pretty much, I don't remember if it was over, let me look really quick. So it covered everything. Basically, this is my final study exam, or final exam study guide, just to show you guys to have an idea. It is front to back. It was very, 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 very thick with information. You know, all I did was, I actually got this from someone in the past that had been passed on, and I just added my own information to it. So as you can see, this is a lot of information for an exam. So like I said, this class is very study heavy. It's something to be aware of. You're gonna either stay on top of your shit, or you're going to get slowly imploded back and not pass the course. And in my school, you had to have a 75% to pass the course. I believe I got an 80 something, like a low 80. I don't exactly remember what I got, but I really worked my ass off in pharmacology because I had done so like borderline in pathophysiology. I don't know if you guys saw my video from before. If you haven't seen my previous nursing videos, go watch them. But I was very borderline first semester, so worked really hard in this class. So as for how I specifically studied and what are my tips for you. So we basically had exams every 2 weeks. If you kind of calculate that out with a course and like with a semester break and stuff, we had a pharmacology exam every 2 weeks, and it was always on Thursday. For my pharmacology class, we had class every Thursday for 3 hours. We would sit and learn material, and let me tell you, it was the most excruciating 3 hours of my entire like schooling. Like I could not like, because you just have so much information in your head already as it is in nursing school, and then when they make you sit through 3 hours of learning class after class after class after class of drugs, it can be very, very overwhelming. But I want you to know that it's perfectly doable. It's okay. You're gonna make it. As long as you're planning out your 2-week periods or whatever your time periods are for pharm, you will be fine. I promise you, you'll make it through. If I can do it, any of you can do it. So basically we would have the 3-hour class, and then so if it was the Thursday that we had just taken an exam, so I took a test on this Thursday, and then after the exam, which would only take us all an hour, we had 2 more hours to get information. So we had that 2 hours from that week, and then we had another 3 hours the following week, so a total of 5 hours each week to learn content within the 2 weeks. And basically within those 5 hours, we would learn probably 6 to 8 classes of drugs, and those 6 to 8 classes of drugs would be on the exam. For example, like exam 1, let's say I had heart failure drugs, antidysrhythmics, anti-anginals, respiratory diuretics, anticoags, and antilipemics. The exam would be over all of those things, and it would be anywhere from, 40 to 52 questions. So that's not very many questions for that much information, because you do need to know the classes of the drugs, and you need to know the specific drugs that they give you. My advice when you're going about that one day when you take that test and you get the information, what I always did, and this kind of goes person to person, this is just my study technique, go home after class and type up your notes or write them out. I did it both ways, and I found that writing it out was a little bit nicer for me, like in an outline form. Like in an outline form, type your notes out or write them out, whatever you have to do. I liked to type them out and write them out. It takes a lot to learn this information. So first I would type them out, and then when I would begin studying the following week, which I'll explain that in a second, I would write all my notes out again. So first tip is to, the second you get your information, go home after class and type up your notes in an outline form that's gonna make sense to you, because what I'm about to show you guys is my pharmacology binder, and it's very, very overwhelmingly huge with information. So this is my pharmacology binder, and I'm sure I've showed this like in my midway semester video, but this baby is just freaking packed with info. Like, I can't even begin to describe how full this thing is, and I'm going to show you guys here. So here we are in my pharmacology binder. I don't know how well this is going to focus, but basically I used tabs for each little unit. So if we were doing a class, let's see, this was tablets, just some study material stuff at the beginning of the book that they gave us personally. Okay, so for example, this would be chapter 18, and they would give us learning outcomes in chapter 19. We had both of them apparently. Just some worksheets and stuff, but okay, this is where my notes would start. So I would have adrenergics, like I would start right here with adrenergics and just continue to go on and write in on their PowerPoints. So I would have different tabs for each unit. So again, moving forward, this one was chapter 19. This was adrenergic blocking drugs. And then, if I flash all the way forward, again, I would go to like chapter 28. And then after the learning objectives, it goes right into the notes. So this was diuretics, and then continuously going. And sometimes I would write on these pages when I was studying, just as I was looking over my notes. But this is just to give you guys an idea of how I organized my notes. I would do it by the class of the drug. And obviously there's a lot of classes of drugs that you're going to learn, so you're going to need a lot of tabs. So that is just the way that I took notes in class, and I would print off their PowerPoints or whatever they gave us, if it was an outline, whatever, and I would just write in my own notes. So that's how I did it in my binder. So like I said, the second that you get your notes in class, the second that you're done taking notes and you're at home, go type them out into an outline that makes sense to you, because as you guys can see, looking at this, it's not very organized, and it's very difficult to stay on pace, because they would give us the class of the drug, and then they would give us a drug, like a specific drug name. Then they would give us therapeutic uses, adverse effects, interactions, blah, blah, blah. And it would be different for each drug. So it's very helpful when you retype out your notes, because I feel like it's easier to focus on what you're freaking reading. That's just my opinion personally. So get your notes, retype them out. when you're studying, write them out. You can do note cards, you can do whatever works for you. This is so hard for me to give advice because all of my friends and I did it differently. Like some people would write them out on flashcards. I liked to use tables a lot, and like a lot of my friends did too, writing out like different tables, which I will show here in a second. So this is actually a binder that I used for Pharm, and basically just to show you guys, this was just me retyping, like rewriting out my notes into what made sense to me. And yes, it may look jumbled to you guys, but being able to actually write out all of the notes that I had really helped me when studying, because the more times you get it in your brain, the more times that you're constantly going over it, the more you're gonna get it as repetition. So that's what I would do, was type them out, write them out, you know, write them out 10 million times if you need to, rewrite the drugs. Focus on the classes is probably the biggest tip I can give you for pharmacology. I know that this video is gonna be clustered, but just paying attention to the classes and paying attention to what your instructor is pointing out. So if your instructor is pointing out, for example, what's a massive drug, like NSAIDs. So there's like a lot to do with NSAIDs that's very, very specific to that category. And a lot of times there'll be endings. So like the quinolines or, God, I'm trying to think of names. I haven't done anything in this class in so long. But like focusing on the endings of the drugs and like being sure like I can put this drug in this class and I know this, this, and this about this class. So that's a way you can like break down the questions when you're looking at exams. So that's definitely something I would do, is don't focus so hard on the exact drug you're looking at. Make sure that you are definitely memorizing everything you need to know about that category of drugs, and then break it down and make sure you know the specifics about each drug that the instructor is pointing out. My instructors were really awesome. They would definitely have stuff bolded, and if something was bolded on our notes, like we obviously knew like this was gonna be something that we needed to know for the exam. So that's my advice in that way. Just a few study materials. The book that we used for my pharmacology course is, okay, so I no longer have my exact pharmacology book, and obviously your school's gonna want you to have a specific one, but I know that it was the Pharmacology and the Nursing Process. This was the book that we used. This is the study guide version of it, but my instructors gave us, like I had this big main book, and then I had this, and any kind of book that you get, look and see on Amazon, like on anything, Amazon Prime, like eBay, see if your book comes with a study guide. So obviously this book is tiny because it's literally just going through every single chapter, and it gives you questions and then it answers in the back of the book. So you're obviously getting into what kind of questions are they gonna ask about these drugs, and it gets your mind starting peeling, and it gets your mind thinking, you know, what kind of questions might my instructors ask. Like, go online, look on Quizlet. I did that a lot. I would go on Quizlet and I would look up adrenergics and see what kind of questions people had, because you want to know on all different platforms, on your book, on like use the back of your book, use a study guide, use Quizlet, you know, ask yourself questions, like making sure that you are going over repetition and going over questions that you could get asked about that class of drug is really important. So I feel like doing every single possible practice question that you can is going to benefit you the most. And that's kind of what happened with me with funds. Like that's a totally different story, but with pharmacology, definitely it was super helpful for me to practice a lot of those questions. So getting as many as you can in is really helpful. I also had, I know that if you're in nursing school, you know what ATI is. So I don't know if all of you have the books that we have, but we're required to have these. We pay for them with our tuition, content mastery series, and it's just a review. It's RN Pharmacology for Nursing Edition 7.0 ATI. So basically this book is the same thing as that study guide was. It's just full of like an overview of the drugs, which is also super good. See it in a different format outside of your notes. Give your brain lots of different platforms to make sure that you're understanding the class of drug and what's going on with the drugs, and you know, just important things to know, because there are very important things to know about different classes. Then what I would do is just take all the quizzes I could in this book that had to do with the chapters that we were going over, and then quiz myself again, you know, go back over them, look in this book, look in your study guide book, look in the back of your book, read through your chapters. I'm not saying, I never read through an entire chapter unless I really didn't understand what the hell the class was doing. Like there are some drugs that I can't even think of any of the classes of drugs right now that I struggled with, but if I was struggling, I would go through and I would read through the chapter, like skim, find information that's important, and that's what's going to benefit you. What else, like just to show you guys how much I use when I'm going back through and rewriting out my notes, this is my little spinner of different pens and, you know, fun pens, highlighters. Obviously, you want to have lots of different variety when you're doing stuff with pharmacology and memorization, because the better like mind to memory connection you can make with colors is gonna benefit you the most when you're sitting in an exam and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that was blue on that page. That's what I do. Again, my study tips may mean absolutely nothing to someone, and they may mean like everything to someone else, because some people may be thinking, oh my god, you type out your notes and you write them out. Well, my mind doesn't work in a fact where I can just look at something and memorize it. I have some friends that are like that. I'm very jealous of them. I can't do that. I have to have it taught to me. I have to have it written out. I have to have it typed out. I have to rewrite it again. I have to look at it 5,000 more times in order for it to stick in my brain. So that is just some study tips for pharm. As for how long did I take to prepare for an exam, I would have exams on Thursdays. Ideally, it's always better to have all of your study materials ready to go like 5 days before a pharm test, because there's literally no point in making a study guide 3 days before the exam because you're already screwed. Like, there's absolutely, like, you're a really lucky smart person if you can memorize, you know, 60 drugs in 3 days, like everything about those drugs, therapeutic uses, you know, causes, why would we use this, what's some interactions, what's gonna happen if they take this, what can it not be used around, like who can use this, what's it for. Like, if you can memorize that with 60 different drugs in 3 days, you, girl, like, hit me up, because I had to take at least 4 full days, 4 to 5 full days to memorize all the information needed for each exam. So if I had a test on Thursday, I would start studying. Sunday ideally would be great, but it was always Monday night. So it was Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. And then, so it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I meant like in 2 days, if you can't do that in 2 days, because a lot of people would start studying on like Tuesday or Wednesday. But we always had a fundamentals test on Monday. So it'd be like we'd study all weekend for funds, and then none of us could start studying for pharm until Monday night, because fundamentals was always the one that kicked all of our butts. So, whatever works, whatever you can do, just start ahead, get all of your study materials done. I always had that going for me. I would always have everything ready to go for me on Monday nights so I could just get started studying. But if you don't, you're really kind of screwed. Like, you're gonna be like hustling to get that information. And you definitely need sleep when you're learning pharm, because if you don't get sleep, it's not gonna stay in your brain. So my advice is to start as early as possible. So yeah. Okay, as for a drug book, I literally probably opened my drug book 3 times in pharm. I never used it because I only used it in clinical, but this is the drug book that I have. This is the 2016 Nurse's Drug Handbook, because we got this when we started school last year. This is who it's by, whatever. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that's the drug book that we all use. I'll have that till I graduate, and I honestly opened it like 3 times in pharm. So if I like needed to know the class of a drug, I would just look in the book, because that's what my teachers were teaching off of. So that is my advice, you know, look and see in your book, because that's probably where your teachers are going to get it from. But always, 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 if your teacher says something about the drug, that's how it's going to be on the exam. Don't go looking on the internet and saying, oh, the internet, Wikipedia said that. No. Listen to your teacher, because that's how it's going to be. You know, obviously, everybody is a different kind of nurse. Everybody teaches in a different way. Some people don't realize that there's been changes to drugs. Some people don't realize that things about classes of drugs may have changed. Listen to what your teacher is lecturing to you, because that's how you're going to get the good grade in the class. So, yeah, that is the advice I have for you guys in pharm. I encourage you guys to do as many practice questions as you can. I encourage you to work ahead. I encourage you to breathe and think through things. Don't sit there on those tests and, you know, ponder everything. You can normally nail it down really quick if you have your classes of drugs like lit in your brain, like they're there, they're stuck, they're not going anywhere. If you have that down, I promise you it's going to be a breeze, and the exam will not kill you. Like, I didn't score, like, I think there was one exam that I scored a dead 75% on, but every other exam I got higher than a 75. So if I can do it, you all can do it. I promise you will get through it. It'll be fine, and you will move forward. It'll be great. So best of luck to all of you who are starting pharmacology. I truly, truly, truly hope that you will kick ass in that class. I have faith in you. And if you guys have any further questions on anything about pharmacology, any specifics, please write it in the comments below. And I appreciate y'all for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.